Are we ready?
Now you are. I had to unmute the mics.
What's that?
I had to unmute the mics. Sure.
Okay, we're gonna call a meeting to order. First item is pledge of allegiance. We all stand. Face the flag. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Starting Peter,
Commissioner Taylor. Commissioner Levitt.
Mr. Songstead,
Commissioner Davis.
Commissioner Frankenbach, Commissioner Hidden, Commissioner Lindstein.
all right, we've got everyone here. Any announcements?
Jacob Bell, Planning Director. So yesterday, the board took up again the moratorium that was placed back on March 25th on minor land divisions and family exemptions. So after about 4-ish hours, 4.5 hours, they repealed or null and voided the previous moratorium due to some concerns of some procedural issues with how they adopted it. They then approved a new ordinance to take effect May 19th through October 1st, and which would only include a moratorium on minor land divisions specifically. So I'll be drafting those changes to that ordinance and presenting it back to the board to ratify the changes at some future business meeting. So it doesn't change the workload that the planning commission had, but I just thought I'd give you guys at least a little bit of a back brief as after that meeting yesterday in case you didn't watch it. So
I have a question about
sure.
the family divisions.
Yeah.
Does that mean they're not suggesting any changes to that, or they want us to look at it, or that's just off the table now?
They took it out of the moratorium. It doesn't mean that the planning commission couldn't also review that for any standards that may need to be added. So if in review of one administrative land division, I think it would be prudent to review both. So
Anything else?
that's it.
All right, the next item is the consent agenda, which is the approval of the minutes of April 15th, 2025. Any objections, corrections, modifications? You're right. Hearing none, the minutes for April 15th are approved. And we'll move to the next item, which is file AM 0007-24, which is Bonner County Comprehensive Plan Component Update Land Use. And the Bonner County Planning Commission is recommending the amendment to the existing Bonner County Comprehensive Plan by updating the land use component for Idaho Code Section 676508, local land use planning. So we'll have the staff report.
Good evening. Again, Jacob Bell, Planning Director. So before us today is the final component of the comprehensive plan update. Again, we're again working on the implementation component, but this is the final of the many components that have been updated to date. So this is under file AM 0007-24. It has a 2024 file date because we first started this last, I want to say September, October timeframe. And then it was decided later to add the changes to the proposed map to the same amendment. So we just kept the same file number rather than giving it a new one. So again, this is the land use component, and it's the recommendation, and the applicant here is the planning commission here before us. All right. So as far as applicable laws go, these are the relevant Idaho state statutes that are applied to this type of legislative change. You received a number of agency comments. These are included in the staff report under Appendix B. The agencies that replied with some specific comments are Idaho Department of Environmental Quality, Idaho Department of Fish and Game, Independent Highway District, City of Dover, and City of Kootenai. And you received a no comment reply from Spirit Lake Fire Protection District. As far as public comment goes, the commission received over 500 public comments during the development of this component. All comments have been included in part of the official record. The Planning Commission compiled a report analyzing comments received through February 15th, 2025, and that's included in Appendix C of the staff report. The commission also reviewed the feedback and made several key revisions to the land use component in response to those public comments. Changes included clarifying and the distinction between land use and zoning, removing confusing land use matrix, and reversing controversial waterfront designations. And then there's an entire planning commission response to those public comments found in the staff report. So the planning commission over a meeting drafted a specific response that's several paragraphs long to the public comments received. As far as workshops and hearings go, so during the current update, our attempt at updating this comprehensive plan component, the planning commission members met and gathered input from the public through a series of public workshops, open houses, and public hearings, or in this public hearing, in order to meet or to make a meaningful update to this component. If I counted right, there's something over 30 workshops that were held. You can see the dates there specifically. It started in October of 2023 through March 25th of 25. There was also several open houses held through various locations throughout the county, as you see on the screen. I have an approximate attendance of those various meetings that were held. There's one I've added to this list that was the workshop or open house, if you want to call it that, where you elicited specific public comments back in July of last year, when the commission was considering having one designation of rural residential. And I think after that feedback, or after the public feedback, you decided then to remove those or to segregate those into Ag Forest 1020 and rural residential. There was a land use analysis application developed. And there's a screenshot of one part of that component or of that application. So the Planning Commission worked with the GIS and planning departments to develop this application. This tool uses historical data from 2019 through 2024 to analyze growth trends and project future development in unincorporated Bonner County. The county was divided into 9 geographic areas to track growth, zoning patterns, and land division potential. And the application evaluates vacant parcels, existing zoning, and development under various scenarios based on parcel sizes and infrastructure. There was a number of data sets that were included as part of the review of this component, and it was at the request of the Planning Commission in developing this update. You can see we gathered data on building location permits in various fashions, historical parcels using Bonner County assessor data. Other inputs included some existing land covered roads, hydrology, some MLS data from sales from 2019 to 2023. They also reviewed other adopted components and then the sub-area plans as well. There were several growth scenarios that were included in the land use analysis application, specifically 4 scenarios based on assuming lot sizes in the higher density land use designations of 10 to 12,000 square feet, 20,000, 1 acre, and 2.5, which are relevant given the potential urban services in those various areas. So each scenario estimates potential new parcels, factoring in zoning, infrastructure, soil quality, and ownership constraints. A complete list of the data used in updating this component can be found in the staff report. As far as Idaho code goes, the Planning Commission is charged with the duty of conducting a comprehensive planning process designed to prepare, implement, and review and update a comprehensive plan. Idaho code further states the plan shall include all land within the jurisdiction of the governing board. The plan shall consider previous and existing conditions, trends, capability of land use, desirable goals and objectives, and a desirable future situations for each planning component. So this is the broader comprehensive plan. The plan with maps, charts, and reports shall be based on the following components. Specifically, the land use component has some criteria to meet, an analysis of natural land types, existing land covers and uses, and the intrinsic suitability of lands for uses such as agriculture, forestry, and mineral exploration and extraction, preservation, recreation, housing, commerce, industry, and public facilities. A map shall be prepared indicating suitable projected land uses for the jurisdiction. As far as the staff analysis goes of this Idaho code section, the proposed update of the land use component fulfills the requirements of that statute. The Planning Commission conducted a robust, comprehensive planning process that included extensive data analysis, integration of public and agency feedback and input, and adherence to applicable state law. The Planning Commission engaged in a thorough public outreach process and held over 30 public meetings and workshops, and utilized a detailed land use analysis tool to project future growth and assess land suitability. In accordance with state statute 676508E, the update includes these various chapters, which incorporates those requirements of state statute. Additionally, a comprehensive plan map was reviewed and updates proposed and refined after public input. The complete staff or the complete staff analysis of this component against the provisions of that state statute is found in the staff report. This is just an abbreviation of that. We have a couple of findings of fact as the bare minimum. I think the chair would like to add to, and I think it is necessary to add to some findings of fact to support this recommended change. And other than that, that concludes the brief summary of the last 2+ years of the Planning Commission's effort in updating this component. So, any questions from the commission?
Questions of well, should we suggest those findings of fact now or wait until later?
I think we can wait till the end of the hearing and in your deliberation add some findings of fact or any other conclusions you would like to add to the record in your recommendation to the board. I should have stated the Planning Commission is charged with making this update, and they make a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners, who would then who would then adopt this component. They have the option to make any other changes to it before they adopt it as well, being the board. So we currently have a workshop scheduled with the board to review this, not to make the decision, but to review it this Thursday, and then again on the 5th. I want to say it's Monday the 5th.
Yes.
Both at 1:30 with the Board of County Commissioners, and it's currently scheduled for hearing with the board on the 28th of next month, assuming that they make a recommendation to the board tonight. If the other option is the Planning Commission is completely has the ability to continue this hearing and make additional changes to it if you seem that deem fit, we're fine adjusting our schedule to the requirements as given us by the Planning Commission. So,
are there any adjustments to the map that might think are appropriate at this point?
So there's a couple of things that we recently discussed. So the planning or the board held a hearing on a quasi judicial file in the Trestle Creek area for one of the parcels here. There was a comp plan map amendment and a zone change request. The applicant's rep is here tonight, and maybe you can speak to this as well. In that deliberation, the board requested the Planning Commission review this area to see if any changes were needed rather than on an individual parcel basis, but as an area in a whole. I believe you discussed this at a couple of meetings, or at least one, and some changes were made to the current versus the proposed map. But given the request from the board, I think it would be appropriate to review.
What area was?
It was in this area of the smaller lots here. So, yeah. There was a storage facility proposed on one of those lots, but again, rather than focus on an individual parcel, I think it'd be area. Yeah, look at the area as a whole and the character of that area.
Is there any way we can take the color off that to see what
This is the proposed map. I'd have to pull up a
Oh,
different actually
It used to be.
well, what it is with no colors on it, just so you can see the
sure.
Current uses.
See if this catches up to me. I'm in the right spot.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so there's an RV park here, there's an RV park in Marina here, there's an RV park there. I believe the component, look back and forth, it takes out this area here and puts it into the rural residential, which would allow for R5 zoning.
so is it property that's of concern where that kind of loop road is?
It's an empty parcel right here in the center. So that's one to consider. We don't need a decision now, but if you like, I can present the other one as well. So that's the Trestle Creek area.
I need to stop right there for a second.
Okay,
So if anybody in the audience here has any concerns about that or suggestions, the rest I'm going to get to the public comment. Go ahead, Ben. Go ahead. You have another one?
oh, But you want to take public comment on that?
No, we open the public. hearing.
Okay, gotcha. So, let's see, there was a property owner that recently talked to me about an area. This is in. Zoom in on the other map so we can see both. There was a recent zone change that took effect late last year. I want to say September, October of last year, that changed a parcel into R5 zoning. That is currently proposed as. There it is. So this parcel here was changed to R5. And I believe one of the other landowners is here tonight, who owns another property in this area. Most of these lots in this area are between 5 and 10 acres. Most of the smaller ones you see here are like 5 to 8 acres. The proposal puts this into a.
So
Sure.
what's there?
Mhm.
The light blue, that's already had its own change to R5.
Correct. It
Should be changed on that.
I think at a minimum, we should change that one to rural residential.
Yeah, there's already been its own change.
Mhm. I don't know. I think it got missed in our review. In looking at the current zoning.
That's to me, that's an administrative. Decision.
Confused, isn't that what's shown here? Or am I?
So this is the current zoning.
Yeah.
This is the proposed land use. So this is
Okay.
that same parcel with a land use designation of 1020 in the ag forest. So
Okay.
How big are those parcels to the south of that?
these are like 2 to 3 acres, if I remember
Wow.
right. Yeah, they're fairly small.
Any others?
Those are the two I have to present.
All right, any other questions of staff before we move on to open the public hearing? If not, public hearing is now open, so normally what we do is we reflect anybody in favor of the proposal. And then we go to anybody that's neutral and anybody that's against. So we'll try to start with that, but feel free to come up and give us your thoughts. I'm not gonna be too particular about supporters or opposition, so go ahead.
Dan Provost. I would like to speak on the Trestle Creek area. I have some more itemized things I don't know, so I'm in favor of most of this, but I have a couple particular places to talk about, so I don't know if you want me,
That we were just discussing.
that first one, Trestle Creek.
Want to pull that up, Jake? Involved in the file that was before the board.
Yes. I was project representative on this area here, so. We went through a comp plan change and also a zone change and then went before the commissioners. And we ended up just last week getting finally denied to do this, basically because it's kind of a mess out there is the way it is, and the board said that we should take care of this all at once. And so this is our opportunity to start that direction. We have a little more information. I have 8 parcels in the area. We were looking at doing 1 and a zone change, but we have 8 parcels where the owners are in favor of doing just that and changing it to the recreational.
Point out.
I-
That you're talking about.
I got a nice little picture here. I should have brought 7 of those.
Well, you can point it out
No,
on the map.
easy enough here.
But point out the zone change parcel that was before the board.
The zone change parcel before the board was this larger 1.8 acre. And it included the access road that came along here on this side, and then it included extra access road that moved all the way through here. And that was all part of the legal description, the deed description of that property.
Could you take the mic with you? Because otherwise the recording won't pick up what you're saying. Sorry, I should have mentioned that to you.
So again, we have the large 1.8 acre piece here. That works. Yeah, so we got the road coming in, the road going, passing through, and then all this larger area here that we were looking to have a zone change, comp plan and zone change to recreational. So now we have an additional, I see we're already here. This is Ray Millard's. Yeah, so we have the why am I pulling a blank? Trailer park. Easy enough. So he's in favor. And then we have this one here that's in favor, backs against that one. Creek is on the common line between the two. We have this one here, owner on this one. Of course, our original ownership here, this one here, this large area here that is also an existing mobile home park, and this 2.5 acre piece here. So we have 8 total and about 11.5 acres all in agreement to want to go ahead and change this area into recreational. So I just wanted to make sure that that's clear there. I would like to pull down. So these are 2/10 of an acre up to about a half acre. We've got this one's, I believe we're just about an acre there. Most of these half acre or so. So they're very small. They're existing in a R5 rural residential R5 zone. And not a one of them is in conformance with the zoning that it is in currently. So we're looking at, of course, the surrounding resort uses already. Can we pull the map down? I want to follow this road up Creekside Lane. Hard to see in that color. Here's exactly the same thing we have. We have residential lots, all from about 3/10 up to that big one at the top there is an acre. This is all part of that existing R5. So we have this neighborhood here that is being parted out away from the R5 zone that it's in. And it is exactly the same thing we have down here that now is being requested to be the same thing as that one there. So we do have the comp plan change, and then we are, of course, looking to go to the recreational zone itself. This whole area in here, even off to the south, if we could. Can we move to the south on that? Okay, all of these, this is, of course, this is all residential also, but you can see the small lots, half acre or less here. It gets into something that's a little larger, maybe an acre or so in these large ones. This is all existing current R5 zone in the rural res comp plan. So we've got all these that don't, they don't match with the zone that they've been overlaid some years ago when they did that. So this whole area, I can see this whole area being rural res, or I'm sorry, recreational, just to bring them into conformance as far as size goes. But mostly we're looking at this area up here that might be a little more painless to try to clean up is the area that we're working with here. And again, 8 parcel owners, all in favor of going into the resort recreational zoning. This area here, that's kind of a slice through there is the old railroad. And that's why it just matches up there. It's not owned by the property owners. It's still old railroad. And of course, the highway here that continues through.
Sewer.
There is Trestle Creek Sewer District, but it's not available to take on anymore or any more. I understand it hasn't been quite built out yet. It's more of a defunct. We got a hold of people who run it, and they said that it's not really completely built out or never was. It was a district that was developed maybe for other reasons that fell through. So it's not an operational one, but everybody there has their own wells and their own septic systems on the smaller lots. It would be awesome to get something in there that would handle all of that. The particular lots that I pointed out, the 8 lots, with the exception of the mobile home park to the north, they're all vacant. Oh, except for the south end down there was the other mobile home park. And so they definitely fit better with the resort uses, and the size wise for the rest of it, right now, they're all non-conforming in the zone that they're in. So it would make sense to pick those up into the recreational facility there. And then, of course, we can work on,
What was the use of the 1.8?
it's vacant. It's vacant, yes. Yes, okay, so the lower, yeah, so there was another lot in there that had a house on it too, but a large majority, 2.5 and that.
So what's the problem with leaving it non-conforming?
Well, other than non-conforming, I don't know that there really is a problem with it, but in order to clean up some of the areas that some of them match and some of them don't. And so we have, like I said, this area here matches what's going on here. We have a subdivision, we have lots, residential home sites, we have exactly the same thing here, but they're falling within a different standard when they're exactly the same. You got the same soils, the same residential uses, same sizes, and yet we're differentiating the two. We've got that one being targeted. It was in the R5. We've got it targeted to do the recreational, and we'd like to target this to be in the recreational also. And again, we've got mobile home park here and mobile home park here. Of course, you've sucked this one into the proposal, and we would like to do the same right on through here. At least the 8 lots that we're looking for to be done. And going across the road here, we've got, this is residential subdivision, fairly new, and it right now exists in the recreational zone. And then we've got Jeb and Margaret's here, large mobile home park. They've got areas here where they come in and you can park your boats, 2 boat harbors. This up here is also currently in the recreational zone. This piece here is currently in the recreation zone. We've got storage units here that are in that's not, what is that? Anyway, kind of beside the point. So we're looking at trying to get this done now. Well, it's kind of a mess. If we could clean it up and make it all match up, we've got, sub-sized lots, and already being taken in up to the north, we have the same thing. So we've got 2 same things. Why are we splitting what the zoning, what the comprehensive plan is doing there?
You understand?
Yeah, okay. I don't need to beat it to death here. But we did get turned down, not because of what's around it, and what the uses are. We got turned down because the board of commissioners would like to do it all at once. And so this is the process that we're trying to finish up here and get it taken care of all at once rather than trying to go in and piecemeal it. And I think it fits well as the other neighborhood to the north on the same road, same uses.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other public comments for, against, neutral?
Dave Bowman for the record. I wasn't planning to speak tonight, but I would like to respond to Mr. Well, I really wasn't. I think anything I have to say, you guys have already heard, but to respond to Mr. Provo, you asked him, what is the problem with this current zoning other than nonconformity? And he said, well, that's really the only problem. And we've already established here that nonconforming lots have a place in the county and in the code and in the land use. And there's nothing wrong with that. We've established that. And I attended the hearing for this project that he refers to, has been before one or both commissions and before the BOCC with an agendized hearing where there was lots of opposition, where people were able to come out and speak, and I realize there's no limitation to what anybody could speak on tonight, but it's kind of an end run around the process that's already happened to come in, and it's really for one individual lot. And I think it would be a bad move to make that change when the guise of this hearing, or the purpose of this hearing, is for the map, or for the whole land use component, which does include the map, but it seemed a little inappropriate to me to address one particular lot that just got done going through a hearing where it was denied. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask Dave a question? Sure. Dave, sure. Ask me one? Yeah. Do you remember, because I watched that hearing too, but do you recall all three commissioners agreeing that that should not be rural residential 5?
I do not recall. I mean, I didn't store all that way from memory. I just know that the
Okay.
process just happened. It covered, there was a lot of ground covered. Part of it had to do with the incongruity in the area. Part of it had to do with road access for emergency services. And there was a lot more to it than just it didn't conform.
Okay. Any other comments?
Tess Vogel for the record. I have two letters. They're for two different sets of properties that I have for you. I've got a couple of properties to talk about. The first one, I'll get that out of the way. It's for the Dormar property that's out on the peninsula area, out by Hope School. Originally, I believe that the commission had them shown as going to ag forestry, but you have now since put that back to that resort community area. And so we're just preparing a letter to give to you, just saying that we do agree with that, that our owners would like that to go forward, and so that they would match with the rest of the peninsula. The rest, including the second letter that you have, one is for another Dormar property. If you could go to, I think it's 2366 River Road. This is a set of parcels also owned by the Ruin family. That right now it is zoned rural residential, and there, well, it has a comp designation of rural residential, and it's zoned for 10-acre minimums. It's this set of 4 parcels, these 2 rectangles, actually it's 3, because the 2 triangles are actually 1 parcel, is how they're set up right now. And right now you have that proposed to go to ag forestry, and those parcels really don't match your designation of that whatsoever. I know that when you go and you look at the aerial and you see the farmland, well, my family farms it. There has probably been 6 figures worth of money that has gone into attempting to make this a hayfield. When we had the Ruin Potato Company, yes, potatoes galore. We don't do that anymore. This is hay for personally my father's and mine's business. We own a cattle ranch. This hay is to supplement them. This doesn't go outside the county. It doesn't go outside of Clark Fork. It's for us. The ground soils may show up as prime farmland, or farmland of statewide importance. On that, you can come out with me and we can show you just how poor this ground is. It's essentially a dirt pile. Down on the lower part that does flood for a good portion of it. On the ends, you have canary grass. Anybody who farms knows you're not planting canary grass for your animals. So it's not high quality. There's not high yields on it. It's essentially glorified yardage that we get enough to make a couple of round bales with. Right now on the main parcel, the 2 split triangles, there is a single family dwelling on there, some accessory buildings, but then also ruin drilling and actual commercial and industrial use that has been there for decades. They just celebrated their 50th anniversary. So I wouldn't think that Bonner County is wanting to encourage there being industrial or those kind of high commercial uses in your ag forestry zones. Yes, this would be grandfathered in on that, but it's an industrial use. That's not a fit there. Is it a fit in the rural residential area more so than your ag area? This isn't an ag property. It's not a farm that's going to be fragmented. There's a lot of kids and grandkids with this family. Most likely they are wanting to be up on this property or another that we're going to be talking about. So they would like the option to be able to actually stay in the county and live out here, and having it in that residential designation so that they could stay at the smaller acreage is what would be appropriate out there. Up the hill from that, portion of the properties have already been sold. Those have been broken up into 20s already, large families. Those will all be split into 10s at some point. And they're going to have all of the multiple homes that they can possible on there, because they too are going to be ag forestry and 10s. I don't know if they've spoken about this as well. Large families, you're going to be seeing single family dwellings, ADUs, all it built out at some point when those kids and grandkids get in here. We would like to be able to keep the Dormar property as is with that rural residential, and just keep it firstly as residential property, which is what it mainly is, and then on the back end with that industrial use.
Well, the primary, so what happened, I'm sure you know this, but, so we basically eliminated the rural 10.
That's why we're asking about it.
Yeah, so, and that became part of ag forest,
Mhm.
but it's 10-acre minimum.
Right.
I'm not really understanding whether you're complaining about the 10-acre minimum, or you want to go to a 5.
We want to be able, well, we're gonna want to be able to go to the 5, because that was going to be the kind of plan all along. But this also doesn't fit your designation description for the ag forestry that you have in your comp plan. It's not used in that manner. It's actually better fits what you've proposed as a designation definition for your rural residential. And that's what you should be looking at. Not the feel of it, but what actually fits the designation description that you've come up with. And if it doesn't fit it, you shouldn't be designating it that. And so that's for that property. The other ones are, I can't remember what the address is. But if you want to go outside of town, outside of Clark Fork. And
That piece you just showed us, I'm sorry.
oh no, you're good.
Yeah, I didn't want to see where it was located, association with Clark.
We're just under 3 miles outside of Clark Fork. So the fire district serves us. We're right off of River Road, which is the county road. The 2 main properties front directly right on that. And then the back piece is the fishing game piece. So if everybody's thinking that there's forestry ever going to go on there, there's no trees ever. That's all the fishing game property. So if you'll go just a little, let me zoom in just a little bit. It's off of Highway 200. It is.
Want to drive?
Yeah, I'll drive. I was like, I know there's an address, but I don't.
Oh, what'd you do?
I don't know. Oh, no, I didn't. It's right there. Purple. I did. These next ones are gonna be these 2 parcels. That I'll be talking about. So these are actually my personal family's properties. The first is, and you received 2 letters about these properties, submitted by Dexter Vogel, who's my father. So what these are, that first one that's on the bottom there, that's a 50-acre piece that's solely his, that came from his stepfather, who got it from my grandmother. But it was also part of the 123-acre piece that he is part owner in with his brother and his cousin, Byron Ruin, Kelly Ruin, on that. They've owned, our family has owned this since the early 70s, when there was still a homestead on there, but all the ag buildings have been removed. What we use it for is where our extra cattle go. We don't farm this. The amount of cost and time that it would take in to fully re-farm everything in this, it would be years before it would be possibly worth anything to do that with. They stay on there with the supplement out there with hay, so it's not prime ground. Wetlands, yes, in some areas. If we did a wetland delineation, there's a lot of high areas with a lot of like dry areas that don't have them anymore. So while it might show that there's a lot of wetlands on there, there truly isn't, but there are wet spots. And then when you look at some of the soils that are on site that are talking about high production, those are actually where a bunch of cottonwood trees are sitting, that are dead or dying. You're not going to get forestry production off of either of these parcels. There's very little of it. And so what it's used for is a residential manor, first and foremost. My uncle lives out there. My grandparents did live out there. So there is another residential home site that were put in the 70s, 70s and 80s. The large one is 123, and then the southern one is 50. And right now we have the designation of rural residential out there. It's at the rural 10, but we are asking to stay with the residential designation because it fits more so than other properties in this area as that actual designation definition that you've come up with. Again, this is actually only about 2 miles outside of the city fire district. We're right on the highway. And yes, we have the waterways going through it and all of that. This is used though residentially. I plan on actually having property out here. My cousins do, and some of the grandkids do. That was the plan. That was the investment from our cousins coming in on this. But again, this has been in our family since the 70s on it. We've known what we were going to be able to do with it since then and built it around that. And now there's going to be a constraint put on it, or it's proposed to have a constraint put on it that would make that harder for us. Especially my father, who most people nowadays, they can't afford 10 acres. They can kind of afford 5, maybe. And so a group like us who have worked our entire lives with the goal of we'll farm, we'll have all of this land, and if something happens, we might be able to break off a piece to give to the kids or sell to the kids, really. And then that's going to make it so that we can stay here. And the 10 acres, a lot of the grandkids, the cousins aren't really interested in that. But it really does come down to the fact that it doesn't fit your ag forestry definition that you've come up with. I, again, would laugh and I would bring you out to see the soils where they're saying that these are prime farmland soils, if drained, if well taken care of, and all of this. It's a brush pit kind of land. If you like thistles, this is the place. It is not farmed. It has not been farmed since the late 80s when it wasn't worth it. It was a home site. The kids were always supposed to move out here and live on the properties. That was what the goal was to make it residential. How am I identifying it? Like as a residential use?
How do you refer to this?
Personally, we just call it the property, but are you meaning,
We're gonna talk about it.
oh, like for what? The Vogel ruin property. The 50 acres is Dexter Vogel solely on that, and then the 123 acres is Conrad and Dexter Vogel, and then Byron and Kelly Ruin. Yeah, and so it's the old Vogel Trust. And so, yeah, this hasn't been farmed. We keep our extra cattle on there. We have a cattle ranch, and so those that we don't want to overdo it where our home is. We're perfectly happy where we're zoned ag forestry on the other side of River Road. The excess goes here for space, but we're still feeding. We're still bringing out hay right now when it's the growing season, and they should be able to be perfectly fine out there, and it can't produce even for that. And we've only got 32. We'll have a total of 32 out there. We've got 20 right now. And we're having babies, and so that's kind of what you can see. It can't keep up even with that few of cows on that amount of acreage. It already has wells and septic on it, power. There's actually going to be more power put to there. Vista is needing to put their work on the railroad, and so at some point we'll have additional power that'll be available out there for development. It's just much more appropriate to be looked at in that manner. Jake, can you turn the proposed map on for this area. And it's actually adjacent to an area that you are proposing to keep rural residential as the designation. Yep, right there. That blue piece that borders Highway 200 right there is owned by the same folks that you actually are also going to be designating that little triangle piece. Don't go down. Yep, right there. Perryman's own that as well. And so one of their properties, you're saying will be able to stay the rural residential designation, and the other is gonna have to be changed to ag forestry. And both of my family's properties are actually more developed and more appropriate to be having the designation of rural residential than the Perryman's front piece, which is undeveloped. There's nothing there besides an access. There's actually a home on their other piece, or well, a cabin. And so there's that as well.
Is that, I know I can see Highway 200 to the northeast.
Mhm.
Are you bordering the railroad track there? On
Yes.
the south?
Yeah, should I take this?
Yeah.
Yes, this is the railroad right of way on here. And so our access comes in off of Highway 200, right through here. And then we can access this piece actually through Perryman's or through our own on that. So they have their access is on the other side of the triangle that actually goes with this mountain piece. There is no access to this because it's just a little small treed area. And so we can either access through Perryman's, which we would come from Highway 200 through this piece into their smaller triangle, and then we can access here, or we can access directly off of 200 into our main parcel, and it goes right into the driveway for this piece.
Other comments?
Karen Kelly for the record. And I just wanted to say that I've been to many of these meetings with you guys and watched all your hard efforts as you discussed non-conforming. You went through it at length and went through a lot of comments before, public comments before you made your decision. I appreciate people wanting to make land changes to their proposals, but it really wasn't on your agenda for tonight. I came for the land use component. I don't think staying on task would prevent these folks any opportunity for asking for their changes later through available processes. And I do know on the comments section of the staff report, there's a lot of concern from people on keeping things rural and supporting the decisions that you guys made in your recommendations. So I thank you for your efforts. Thank you.
I do. I've got another item I wanted to look at real quick, but I did want to make another comment. I think y'all heard that the Trestle Creek project was recommended for approval by this commission well, on its way through. Okay, so and again, Commissioner Lynn Scott had brought up that all three commissioners said it didn't belong in the R5, and so they wanted to take it to say right here, and let's get started on fixing that problem. So I've got one other place to go. If we could go down to Kokolala Loop, Hatcher project. Okay, so I've done some work on a lot of things in here for the Hatcher project. What's not being shown here is this parcel here, this little kind of Z-shaped, is currently suburban zone. And so rightfully it should be in the What are we looking at? Mixed use here? Is that what the gray is? Okay, so this is all in the family here. We have submitted a zone change request, a comp plan and zone change request on this parcel here, just to the north of this existing suburban zone, and over here on this 5-acre piece also. So we had submitted that out 2 or 3 months ago. And it's just going out for, we'd actually just been scheduled for public hearing, so we'll be back in front of you guys on that one. So if this helps to kind of get through that hurdle, so there's your Z-shaped suburban zone. I know that doesn't belong in the comp plan R5. And so it's just one of them little fixes and trying to head something off prior to having to chase that one down again.
Okay, is that area that I just sort of saw blue? What's the current comp?
That whole area is transition currently.
Oh, okay.
And so that's what we were going off of course, to try to get where we need to go. And again, it's all family members and it's all the Hatchers.
What is transition, Jake? What were you referring to?
So. The proposed comp plan map is a static map with no other layers on it. That's why I'm jumping back and forth here. So here's the current land use, right? So you can see it follows. I'm not sure what the name of that road is. No, the one on the left over here. What is it? Hahi Road. And then Hatcher's here in the center. So there's a suburban zone, there's a, what is this, rural service center, and then some R5 zone. This area is proposed. So right now, this is essentially the dividing line in what's mixed use, what's proposed, yeah, or transition or mixed use as we're proposing it here. So so this area here is all proposed to be rural residential. And it looks like this parcel is suburban, currently zoned, and it's proposed to go to rural residential comp plan.
How did we, so what's the zoning on this property? Besides suburban, I understand that probably.
So there's some suburban.
Comp plan designation was transition, and what was the zoning?
So the current zoning in this area looks like it's R5. It looks like there's a couple properties here that are proposed to go to rural. No, one property that's proposed to go to rural residential that's zoned suburban. And then there's some, I mean, there's some commercial in this area, the industrial and rural service center.
I don't recall why did we change that from suburban to rural residential? I don't remember that.
Good question. I don't know.
I think it just got.
My guess is we missed it,
Or
or
missed it.
it could be, you know, in this area, we were relying heavily on the map drawn by the single suburb. It's possible. That we had it drawn that way. I don't know. I have to go.
Yeah, actually, they only went down to the road.
Oh, that's true.
So this wasn't even in a sub area. This
Yeah.
wasn't a sub area.
Yeah.
Looks like that zoning was changed on that property and the one to the south, these two, back in 2022. So it wasn't even a recent zone change. And looks like one was caught and the other one wasn't, so.
Okay.
Does that answer your questions?
Is someone keeping track of all these?
I have a list going.
Okay, good.
I have a list, and without it, you haven't made any decisions, so I'm trying to keep it with like a project name, if you want to call it that. or an
I'm
area
assuming,
name.
Mr. Chairman, you want to wait till deliberations to discuss these?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you want the parcel numbers of mine?
That'd be great if you have them.
Yeah, I'll write them down for you.
Thanks.
Okay, any other comments? One more.
My name's Jeremy Nichols. I was the other gentleman that was when he brought up the other parcel there over by Eagle View. Just down the way.
I'm working on it.
Okay. So like you shown in here, we got, this has already been rezoned as rural 5. This is actually my property right here. My folks are here and here. So my dad, I'm not speaking on his behalf as well. He owns both this and this. And then my brother's here. As you can see, and like you kind of pointed out, we already have 5 acre or less parcels up here, a whole bunch of smaller ones down here. This is very populated. I can, as far as the ag aspect of it, I can personally speak to this. I've tried to raise sheep and at one point had a dairy cow and all that fun stuff. And I've put a ton into just trying to grow grass, and it's just not what it is. And so at the end of the day, it's really just rule 5 is what I really believe this fits more appropriately, especially with everything that's already in place and everybody that I know in the area there. And that's just
So show me again which properties you're referring to.
in regards to, so this whole segment here. So it appears that just the rural ag just kind of came down and followed the line in basically. But these are all high-end houses, $1 million homes up through here and such. And so this is my particular property. This one is the ones that's already been rezoned to 5.
Show me which properties.
So this is my personal property here. Of which, yeah, I'd like to go through the process of a family split as far as that goes anyways, on my side of things. This is 10 acres. And so, like I said, this is already done. This is all here. These are all small acres. It's just where that's at already. Not. So for this zone out at Ag 10 doesn't really make a ton of sense. It's currently R10. Well, that's kind of, yeah.
So this area is currently zoned R10, and if you guys remember right, anything that was zoned R10 got a comp plan designation proposed as Ag Forest 10, given the idea of getting rid of the R10 designation. It looks like it was Crossingham, is that the name?
Correct.
So there was a project that was recorded late last year on a zone change for Crossingham, which is that centerpiece there of, I think it's 10 acres, and they're working on a land division to take that into 2 different 5-acre pieces.
Mhm.
He mentioned that his father owns 2 of those lots there that are now split designated.
And then my brother's also here, so
There you go.
I've got.
So he actually came to the moratorium meeting yesterday and sat down with myself and a couple others last night. And I said, we're taking this up again tomorrow. Feel free to stop by and look at the whole area and chat with the planning commission about it. So at a minimum, I think we need to look at the currently zoned R5. And then potentially just the greater area similar to the Trestle Creek request.
Cheryl Messer, for the record. I'm gonna go over designations, not the map so much as designations. I've charted excerpts from the 5 sub-area comprehensive plans, especially highlighting what they desired for agricultural forest lands and rural residential lands. As what you have compiled for our land use designations is supposed to represent the people's vision for the future of our communities and county, I request that you hold that information up against the land use designations and matrices adopted December 13th, 2005, and the current land use designations you have compiled. And maybe as you guys have worked through stuff, I mean, you've gone through so much information and done so much work. Sometimes you can kind of lose sight of what was the beginning? What did the people want? So, what I would ask you to answer for yourselves as you look at that is which designations and matrices, and I know you've taken the matrix out of what you're currently doing, but which designations and matrices are most or more distinguishable and in alignment with the will of the Bonner County residents? Will the proposed land use designations be clear and easy for Bonner County residents, planning and zoning, hearing examiners, and the BOCC to understand, separate, and make solid, logical, uniform, and just decisions from? The language needs to be as airtight as possible. I've sat through these hearings and sat through these hearings, and they're held up against these things that seem to evaporate. Or, yeah, we know the farm thing. Anyway. I personally prefer the 2005 designations and matrix and see no reason to change them. However, of course, Bonner County Code 12322 still needs to be conformed to those with regard to the Ag Forest 10s and 20s. Then I have a question. How do you differentiate from what you guys have written? How do you differentiate between the Ag Forest 10s and 20s from your Ag Forest general designation? You might consider adding soils and slopes criteria from the 2005 land use designations. There was a reason for them. When they did them, there was a reason for them. Like one of the things on that 30% incline, what I understand from talking to somebody who was on those sub-area comprehensive plans, Steve Wood, he said they put it there for the 10s, Ag Forest 10s, so that up against the hillside, you didn't have erosion and stuff. You could have trees. You can build on 30% incline and have trees there that would hold the soil and stuff. So there was a reason for it. And I think you've taken it out, but I don't know for sure. So our Sally Samuels area said we want no rural service centers or rural recreation communities to be allowed in Ag Forest land designations. Also, please add back a designation for rural residential 10s. Again, we've had some designations, some stuff brought up tonight where this isn't really ag stuff, but it's a residential thing. And they're 10s. And another possibility, a good suggestion that was done in one of the sub-area comprehensive plans or that they brought up was the Priest River Old Town sub-area suggested rural residential 10 should be located to create a buffer between ag forest lands and higher density residential areas. Current rural residential 10s and ag forest areas or districts should not be allowed to divide the ones that are already there. Because we have rural residential in the middle of, the ag stuff. They're not non-conforming, but they're not doing ag. And just like, we had testimony tonight about, well, this land isn't good for that or whatever. We just want to live there on 10 acres. And one of the issues of having just 5s. Okay, so we have a farm, our lower 47, right across our 47 flat, clear acreage, though it's a good hay farm, is a subdivision was allowed to be put in there back in the day. It was Louis Rich's part of when he was in. And we had a surveyor say, I've never seen this anywhere else in the county, where you have this little subdivision up against ag and then between ag. And it's like it's under 2 acres, some of them. And then up toward our area, it's 5 acres. And they have, on the 5 acres, there's 2 of them that have little bush airplanes and their little runway. And so we've had the other neighbors, turkeys being buzzed into the fence, and he had to kill them. There's a reason to have a buffer. Some of you guys may not appreciate that if you haven't farmed, but some of this stuff isn't very good to be on close proximity with each other. Further, please add that adequate water must be available for rural residential designation. Under rural residential, you have sewer, but you didn't address water. You didn't put water in it on your designation. And again, I'd like the tens added back. Please add language making it very difficult to make land use plan amendments or changes to the land use map. In past applications, the requesting party would have to explain why the change is a necessity. Requesting parties should have to justify a change based either on a demonstrable error or a benefit to the public health, safety, and welfare, not just for an individual's personal gain. Thank you for your time and effort and listening. Thank you. If anyone wants to look at it, here's what I wrote on the designation.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Anybody else?
I'm Dennis Polinick, my wife Tamara over here. And we just learned about this meeting just a few days ago. And I see you had some references to meetings. We're back in 23 and 24, and we weren't aware of any of those. Anyway, I don't know if this stuff is going to affect us. We're still trying to make heads or tails out of some of this information off the computer. And we bought some property over the years for retirement. I was pretty much self-employed most of my life. So the property is my retirement. And I still want to know that if I can split it into 10-acre parcels or do it myself or have it sold so somebody else could do it. And also a lot of this is in timber productive. Is that going to change? I heard something about changing to rural. I don't know if that's true or not.
Where's your parcel?
North of Samuels. And some further at Elmira.
As long as you have the 5 acres, it doesn't matter what zone you're in, as long as you have 5 acres, you can apply for a timber exemption.
Oh, probably, yeah. Okay, yes.
So there's Lake and whatever, so. Whatever current use you have, it's not gonna change
It is, Tamara?
based on these designations.
Yes. I'm gonna say. Yes, there's to be a 10 and a 30. And they are, already timber exemption.
Anyway, when we bought this piece here, it was a 10 and a 20.
I'm sorry, say again?
It was a 10 and a 20. Actually, the guy that bought this piece originally, it was a 10 and a 20. We bought it as a 30 and then we picked up this 10 here. And anyway, our plans were to go ahead and put that in 10-acre pieces.
Well, when you get, that is that's an ag forest designation, which could be 10s and 20s, 10s or 20.
Okay, can go down to 10.
Well, it depends what the zoning is. We're not dealing with zoning here, so. Zoning, the zones for that designation are 10s or 20s. So,
Okay, okay.
Do they-
Do I need to ask?
you know what,
Is it gonna ever
you know what the
change?
zoning is now on it?
It's
Yeah.
forest 10.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it wouldn't change.
Okay.
Zoning.
so when would, when all these zonings, when will all these zoning,
We're gonna have to address zoning after we get through with this.
have to get through it.
Yeah.
So,
But all that's really gonna be just a name change. It
okay,
would probably rural 10
okay,
and it'd be ag 10, ag
Okay.
forest 10. 10-acre minimums.
then we have,
You wanna state your name up so we have a record?
my name is Tamara Polinick. So also in section 959 North 1 East, we have a 40-acre and a 20-acre and another 20-acre. It's all zoned as timber ag right now, except for maybe maybe a 10-acre piece or 12-acre piece. So there's what's going to happen here is not going to really affect us at all then.
I'm sorry, say again?
going to be happening here will not affect us then. As our property stands there.
You know, I can't say that definitively because I don't know where your property is, but if it's currently zoned rural 10,
Oh.
then it would become ag 10. So it's still a 10-acre minimum, so the density wouldn't change.
Okay,
But if you're in a 20-acre, it will probably stay at 20.
Can-
We're not changing the zoning on your
okay. So we're at is a 10-acre minimum. So the 220 parcels that we have, can we split those into 2 10s? Okay, I'm pretty sure it's 10 acres and
Whereabouts is that at?
59 North 1 East, section 9.
Elmira,
Elmira.
east of Myra, west of Myra.
It's West Elmira, but it's section 9. Township
Okay.
59 North
I think
1
he's gonna
East.
pull up right now.
East, it's gotta be.
Oh, it's section, I mean, it's 1 East, so it's this side of the highway, it's.
Yeah.
Um,
Gotta be on the east side of the highway.
West side.
Or the west side of the highway.
It's
Meridian.
But it's range 1 East, which don't better. I think you have to go further north.
So that's
Yeah,
boundary county.
but, okay, I think it's gonna be, um, But- okay, so I think it's probably these parcels here.
This. That piece?
That's part of it. Yeah, there's one, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So there, yeah. It's in section 9.
So we had workshops all over the county. And you know, the purpose was to answer questions like this, so we don't have to answer that tonight, but.
Well,
Nobody-
I
nobody threw a
apologize
rock
for
at
that.
us.
I really
No need.
am. I'm very ignorant, I guess, and I apologize for that. So I
No
would
need,
like to get some answers if I
no
could.
need, no need to.
So it looks like, so comp plan designations are like a foundation that then you build zoning on top of, right? So to help answer your question briefly. In this area, it's currently designated as ag forest. It looks like it's going to be designated as ag forest in the 10-acre zone. So, but zoning will be taken up by this commission in a similar fashion where they're going to look over the zoning descriptions and then the zoning map. It'll take some time to review, but it doesn't look like it's going to change in this area. That being said, it doesn't affect taxation. So zoning doesn't affect how the properties are taxed. It's only actual use.
All right, any other comments? If not, I'm gonna close the public comments and
We do have one online.
okay. We have somebody online.
Yeah, Teresa.
Please state your name and
Hello, can you hear me?
yes, you can.
Good evening, Teresa Heisner, Bonner County. I just wanted to agree with what Cheryl said. I think it's important that you guys don't lose sight of what the sub area plans envisioned, which was a lot of hard work, as you know, a lot of time and a lot of input from the people. So it's frustrating to see us years later still doing this. It's really frustrating. I also wanted to say that listening to some of the testimony this evening, gosh, it really feels like lobbyists and developers in there. And honestly, I think it is. So let's keep that in check, please. Thank you.
Any other public comments? All right, I'm gonna close the public hearing. And we'll bring it back to Mr. Jake, do you have any comments?
No.
Okay. And we'll bring it back to the commission for deliberation. I have a couple things that I think we ought to address. Under the suburban residential designation, I think we were supposed to add, I think we meant to add same language we have in the other designations, where it's adequate water and sewer services as determined by the relevant agencies such as IDEQ, PhD, IWR. We need to add that language to suburban. Got it, Jake?
I do.
Unless there's an objection. Okay. And I had a couple of other thoughts here. You have, there's several other, issues that this commission is going to address, and one of those is the policies, and the goals, objectives, and policies. They're part of the implementation component. We have been discussing that for the last couple of meetings, and we are substantially revised the policies in the current implementation plan. We haven't finalized that yet, but we're working on it. And part of what we're working on is we have been discussing, what kind of review is appropriate for IDEQ, Panhandle Health, and IDWR. I had a meeting with DEQ on Monday, kind of a preliminary meeting, and they're going to be at our next meeting on next Tuesday, as well as Panhandle Health. So we can fashion a policy that will require, or at least hopefully some review, appropriate review for different either zone changes, comp plan amendments, building location permits, or whatever. So that's going to be discussed next. We have suggested in the policies that changes to the comprehensive land use plan should be rare. Land use map. We haven't finalized that, but that's part of what we're talking about. So, not sure what else I've got here. I would also suggest that we add some things to our findings of fact. I have some suggestions. One, I would recite that in order to carry out the comprehensive planning process, that the land use for the land use component in the map, that the planning commission has held 32 public meetings and workshops, including one workshop with the Board of County Commissioners. The second finding of fact, I would say that 8 of those workshops were in various parts of the county. And 3, each of the sub-area plans were reviewed and considered in both the land use component and the land use map. In fact, some language from those sub-area plans were actually used in the component. In order to the fourth, in order to analyze the potential growth of the county and the projected analyze past growth of the county and project future growth, the Planning Commission, along with the GIS department, developed a land use analysis tool, and that was used to fashion some of the policies and some of the language that's currently in the land use component. Next, the Planning Commission sought and considered public agency comments to develop the component of the land use map. And I also believe that we should include part of the staff report, the bullet points on pages 3 and 4. There's 6 of them. And I would include those in the findings of fact.
Oh, the scheduled workshop hearings, the dates and stuff.
I'm sorry?
Is that what you're referring to as the dates of the workshops and hearings?
No. So bullet points. The bullet points says in accordance with Idaho Code 676508, proposed update includes, and then there's 6 bullet points.
Yeah.
3 and 4 on the staff report. Pages 3 and 4. My suggestions. We've had some discussion tonight about several potential map changes. One was Trestle Creek. I don't know if the commission wants to discuss those.
Mr. Chairman, I watched that meeting on Zoom. All in staff can verify this, correct me if I'm wrong. All three commissioners were in agreement that that should not be designated as rural residential. They suggested that we go ahead and take this up in our comprehensive plan recommendation. Is that correct?
So yes, the board, they agreed that it didn't fit the required, that it doesn't fit the current designation. And it doesn't fit the current zone. There was a lot, or I'd say a decent amount of opposite, probably 8 to 10 folks that or maybe 15 that showed up for through the various hearings. I think we had three different hearings and then a reconsideration hearing, so 4. We saw a number of the folks reoccurring, showing up at those, voicing their concern regarding the change. They were mostly concerned about the access and their access being, for the proposed use on that property. So, but in their deliberation, the board did indicate that they wanted the planning commission to review this. They didn't specifically state, like, in this current iteration of the comprehensive plan, they wanted it to be reviewed or some future date. So Mr. Linscott got a hold of me and asked, is it appropriate to bring up during this meeting? I said, well, you do have the option of making changes in your recommendation to the board. So that's kind of my view of it.
I guess I kind of feel like, except in maybe obvious cases where we had an oversight, it seemed like that one suburban lot down near Coquelin may be an example of that. That pretty clearly looks like an oversight on our part. I'm not sure that at this point we should be looking at individual parcel questions. Agreed.
Okay. No, this isn't an individual parcel. This is that area.
Well, it's sparked by an individual parcel, and that's really what sparked it. And then, yeah, I understand there's a poll done supposedly of some neighbors, and some neighbors agree. And maybe the board thinks we ought to do something more than just the individual parcel, but it does feel like we'd be short-circuiting the normal process for making these kinds of applications to the county. Particularly that it's made in, it's kind of 11th hour at this point for this component and that.
Yeah. I mean, I actually
It's just focused on this.
I actually brought that area up twice in our conversations, because that area was not covered likewise, Parkport, by a sub area.
You said, we had this issue come up in other areas. I think this area has some issues, and it doesn't have a sewer, relatively small lots. I think we said in our response to the 500 comments that we got that we're gonna try not to deal with individual parcels as much as we could. So I would agree with Dave. I think we should leave this as it is right now and let them go through the process. But it doesn't actually fit because it doesn't have what we would refer to as more like urban services. Yeah. So probably that, even thinking back to the case that was before us for that one parcel, there are a number of issues that the neighborhood brought up, access being one, the fact that it is on a state highway. We didn't have a total comment, I don't think, from Idaho Transportation Department about it. And it's complex. Plus, it's not. There was a comp plan amendment, map amendment proposed at that time in a zone change, so the neighborhood was involved. But now to go back and do it, there may be a due process issue. Doing it through this form. The other ones, the one by Coca-Cola, I think I agree that that looks like an oversight. Even to the point, and this is it's a sad fact that was brought up even back in 2005. There's no way that even area by area, you can absolutely proof out what the soils are, what all the conditions are that make it real copacetic with the designation and the description of the designations. There just isn't, even with a much better resource that we have now through GIS, it still couldn't be done short of going area by area. So if the mobile properties, if they don't fit, that's evidence they don't fit. And that's therefore some incentive to make it with the proper design or a better fitting designation. What are you talking about? We're not talking about those yet, but well, it's just part of the overall discussion. Okay. Deliberation.
So I agree with in yourself as well with, as far as with the Trestle Creek one, it's something that needs to go through the process. It's not a little about that. I do think the oversight of Hope Law makes sense to change that. I'm sorry, then change to.
You might bring that micro close. Yeah, I think the Coca-Cola parcel that appears to be an oversight, as well as that one zone change up in near off of Highway 2. Yeah, is that one first? Yeah, it's out there by the fleet. Those changes should be made. Any others that anybody would feel that we need to change? I'm not really in favor of changing the mobile road properties. Those are big parcels. They can go down to 10 acres. So I think that's a whole other subject we need to discuss, I think, with some analysis and some notice to neighbors and so on about that. If they want to go for a comp plan amendment and a zone change. That was the goal, apparently is to get a zone change down to R5. And that's a pretty large piece of property, 123 acres or whatever it is. That's a large parcel. And I think that needs a little more consideration. Anything else? Any other? Not really. No.
We had another gentleman comment. I think it was up by, can't remember the name of that road. Eagle View. Yeah, Eagle View.
That was kind of in the same area as that one parcel that had its own change.
Yeah.
It's a similar area.
I'm sure hope we didn't miss any others in the county.
Well, I hope not too, but I hope not, but I think the odds are against this, that we haven't, there's so much out there. And as we know from time to time again, soils maps are.
Well, we're not talking about soils anymore, so.
Well, the basic indicators are not absolute across the landscape. So. And we mentioned that, I think, in part of our discussion in the component, or in the maybe it's in the objectives and such, that it's just we got a variable situation, so changes are bound to happen. I just before I forget it, that even that on the mobile properties out there, the houses that are there have septic systems, but to get new ones in that area based on 5-acre lots, to get 300 feet away from those the old stream meanders in there, I don't know. I mean, I'm not paying animal health. That's not our role. As to them at the time, but I'd like to see through an application, see them comment on it. Because that could be a deciding factor. Okay. No. You know, we tried to Crescent Creek too. I mean, you know, we had tried to address what we thought was consistency, in the waterfront lots. Where there was actually urban services. And we got a lot of pushback about that, about what, you know, this make it legal non-conforming. And ultimately, that's what we did. So even though there's some inconsistency with regard to, those waterfront lots, you know, we left them non-conforming. If somebody wants to change it somewhere down the line, you know, obviously there's a process to do that.
Which ones are you referring to, Al?
Well, it's the same issue with Trestle Creek. I mean, the argument there is that it's not consistent with the area around it. Okay, we had the same issue with regard to the waterfront lots. Where you know, they were exactly the same as lots that were designated recreation. And, you know, the thought was we're gonna leave them. We changed it back to I think Rural 5. So and left them non-conforming. Legal non-conforming. And there really isn't any downside, or there isn't much of a downside to that at this point. So they are what they are. So I think they go back and try to change these based on that argument. Kind of goes against what we've already decided to do in other areas.
As far as I see it, as far as tonight, the only thing I think we should change is that Coca-Cola, that oversight. Other than that, I think
Yeah, and
we should stand in regard.
that was a zone change. We need to change that. So.
Agreed. So we're ready for a motion?
So if I understand it right, you wanted the designation text for the suburban designation to add the line about as determined by ID. Yeah, the same line we see in the other higher densities.
We have in the others.
The other designations. As far as the Trestle Creek, no change. The River Road properties, which test presented no change. The Clark Fork Highway 200 properties, no change there. And then the Kokola Loop, we're only changing the one that is currently zoned suburban to which designation? To suburban or mixed use? Mixed use is what's in that area.
Mixed use in that area, right?
Correct.
Yeah. I would probably do mixed use.
Okay.
To be consistent and not create another island separate from everything
Okay.
else.
And then on the Eagle View Road, we're changing the one that is currently zoned rural R5 to rural residential. Is that right? Okay.
There was a comment from Cheryl regarding language in the rural. In that panel, or in that paper she handed you. I can't remember exactly what.
She wanted us to change the to reinstate rural 10.
Oh, I thought there was something else.
On the letter, I read to you the letter, so if there was something I said up front, that was on that. Some of the sub areas I talked about making a buffer zone with rural 10.
For some reason, in the back of my mind, there's some, not just adding the rural 10, but something in the rural. Definition for some reason I was thinking.
The water, just that's what
No.
she mentioned, that there was.
Because I think we have-
language about adequate water, but there was adequate sewer. Was that the other comment you had?
That was in the residential rural.
Is that what you're thinking?
That's what I
About
thought. Yeah.
sewer,
that's what I
but not water.
That's, did we just take care of that by adding that to the description?
So we already had that language.
I thought we had that.
We have it in recreational community, we have it in rural residential.
Okay, just need to be across the board. I mean, it's a need in all the designated areas.
Okay. All right, yeah. Any other comments? If not, you know, anybody want to make a motion? Okay.
John, you've been at this the longest.
That's why you get the honor.
Sorry.
Don't want to do that anymore. Okay, this is Commissioner Davis. I move to recommend to the Board of County Commissioners approval of this amendment to the Bonner County Comprehensive Plan File AM 0007-24. Updated the land use component, finding that it is in accord with the requirements of Idaho Code Section 676508 and the procedures set forth in Idaho Code Section 676509. As enumerated in the following findings of fact as amended here within this hearing. And conclusions of law, and based on the evidence submitted up to the time the staff report was prepared and testimony received at this hearing, I fully move to adopt the following findings of fact and conclusions of law as amended at this hearing. This action does not result in taking of private property. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded.
Sorry, I just remembered. We had that comment from City of Dover that we were adding a designation on a newly annexed property. And I don't believe we discussed that. You mentioned it right before the meeting. And I forgot to bring it up after my staff report.
So is it or isn't it?
It's not on the layer I have, which gets updated yearly by the tax commission. So it could be that our data just isn't up to date. But it looks like per the comment that area has been annexed by the city.
So what's the effect of us establishing a land use designation on a parcel that's been annexed by the city?
I don't think there's a harm.
No impact.
I know the city has land use designations inside unincorporated county territory on areas that they expect to grow too. So it's just a point of reference that was a request by a city that we hadn't addressed. So I know it's 11th hour last minute and I just remembered. So my apologies.
You can also see that this may be potential that during the AI discussions or impact area discussion, we call it IA instead of AIM. That could precipitate plan amendment if necessary, if it came to that. So I think that could fall both over and Coop's request. Okay, all those in favor of the motion? Aye.
Aye.
Against? Passes unanimously.
I said again. That's why I hate sitting this far away from now. Yes, my hearing.
All right, so next is discussion, I guess, of May 6th agenda items on here.
Yep. So as you mentioned, we have a couple of agencies coming. We'll have representatives from IDEQ and PhD will be here in person. And then I did receive an email from a representative from IDWR. They requested a copy of the current implementation component. I've highlighted some of the changes as proposed, and they're going to draft a written response. So you'll have something in writing from them as to what they would request for policies. So that we should probably add that as an agenda item discussion with these specific agencies. So at least the citizenry will know who we're talking with. Maybe they'll have some comments regarding that. So other than that,
This would be, so that'll be for the 29th.
oh, correct. Yes.
So that's the 29th. We'll be discussing the implementation plan.
So on the,
Implementation component, sorry.
Mhm.
At that meeting.
the 29th, next Tuesday. Yep.
And that's Tuesday, so that's what we're gonna do on this coming Tuesday, and then on May 6th. That's when
So-
we'll discuss the MLDs.
So there's a good question. The moratorium doesn't take effect until the 19th of next month. So do we want to discuss that before the moratorium takes effect or after?
I don't think that matters one way or the other.
Okay.
And which either needs to be fixed, you know, I mean.
Sure.
I think the sooner we get to it, the better.
Perfect. Okay, we'll take it up on the 6th.
Well, so if there's some objection. Was doing it before the moratorium, we, let us know, but I don't see what that objection would be. Okay, anything else?
Like, we'll have a chance to add any other agenda items to the 6th next Tuesday. So depending on how that conversation goes and how far you get along with the implementation component update, you might want to take it up again on the 6th, but that's all.
I think we're gonna try to address the balance of the implementation component that we haven't discussed yet. So yeah, hopefully everybody will be prepared to do that, and then we'll finish the wedges, rules and policies as well.
We do want to add sometime in a future agenda, a review of the new changes to the broadband code or statute. So there was a change to LUPA adding 6540, if I believe the number is. So that'll necessitate a change to our procedural process on reviewing conditional use permits for cell towers. I think we should review it in a workshop and then staff can start crafting some changes to the code and then present that at a future meeting. That takes effect in state statute on the 1st of July. So if we can at least get a draft together and hopefully even adopt an ordinance before then, it's beneficial. Other than that,
Do we have a hearing set for the RV parks?
correct. Yes, it's the end. What's the date? May 20th is the hearing date on that.
Okay, anything else? Any more lead in for Thursday's meeting?
So I sent the board all of the information that we had in the amendment file, AM7 file, up through today's meeting. And I told them I would try to craft a recommendation letter before they get back on Thursday. They are gone. They've had a lot on their plate with this moratorium, so I don't know how prepared they're going to be. I gave them all this information about a week and a half ago to try to get them time to review it. So I have a feeling it will be a lot of, just a review of the component itself, and then you'll have more substantial comments on the 5th. I think that's the Monday after. Yeah, it's like a week and a half later or 2 weeks later. Both of the, so one's on a Thursday, the other one's on a Monday. That's what best worked for the board's schedule.
1:30.
1:30 to 3:30, I think is what it's scheduled for.
Okay, so one final question. I put this to the commission as well as the staff. The last couple of weeks, I've had discussions with a couple fire chiefs, and then with Northern Lights engineering director yesterday, just about their service providers. I know, for instance, Northern Lights, they talked with planning department just about what's going on and keep it up. Every one of them, I've challenged them to look at the land use analysis tool. They weren't aware of it. I think Northern Lights is because they've incorporated part of it in their GIS, but just talking with them in general about the future of development in the county, what's happening. Can they keep up? Is that their policy to keep up? With the fire districts putting in the impact fees, someone could infer that that's a method to just keep ahead of the growth or up with the growth. And that, talking with Chief Armstrong the other day, he didn't think that was the case because there's a limit to it. Plus their own service area, how much can they do? They're going out for levies now because they can't afford to maintain what they've got. So the question begs to be asked, how far can this go? So whether that's a sit-down meeting with the service providers across the landscape to discuss it in the future sense. Maybe it's necessary, maybe it's just not exactly a moot question, but it's been really on my mind lately after going through all of this over the last 6 or 7 years. Just how far can we go? If it's going to be any limitation on the growth in the county, it's going to come in respect to the services provided. If they can't be provided reasonably and effectively and efficiently and cost-wise, then why are we making it look like keep going forever? It just doesn't make sense. We're never going to add any more roads to this county other than the private roads up into the hillsides, and those are not going to be public. And we hear time and time again that is not serving. And now look at what that's the concern of the fire districts. They feel very hampered about protecting within their district, which they're pledged to do. to serve those residents. And there's 6 to 9 months of the year they can't. So what are we doing? We really didn't get to that through this whole exercise. So I don't know. I hope I'm not spinning my wheels across the problem, but I think the problem is coming to us. So how to handle it, what to do with it? Anybody got a suggestion?
Is there any reason why we wouldn't invite those organizations to sit down with us?
I don't know. I mean, another meeting, but, and you like to have a meeting to have a desired outcome. So what would the outcome be? A pledge to think about it further and look into their own budgets and their own future and come up with it. It's also a very, very difficult question for a service provider to answer, saying, we might not be able to provide. That's darn close to politically incorrect, but it begs to be asked.
Well, we've set the process up so that, they need to have input from those districts.
Absolutely.
I mean, we've set the comprehensive plan up to deal with that.
To collect input, right?
So, and when you get to a development proposal, they're gonna have to satisfy, it's gonna have to satisfy those different agencies, different districts.
The issue is, as Dave Bowman pointed out a few weeks ago, an individual minor land division or building location permit doesn't even register on the radar. But 50 of them in the area starts to. Well, our land use analysis tools showed there could be hundreds, if not thousands, over the next 30, 40 years. Is that?
But they're gonna happen incrementally. They're not gonna happen all at once.
No, they aren't. And
So we'll
that's the-
slowly approach, if there is a limit in one or more of the service providers.
Yeah.
I would guess we will slowly approach that limit.
Yeah.
Not all of a sudden wake up one morning and say, ooh.
Well, but
guess
then,
what?
so I've been through this at land use, in the western part of the country for the last 30 years. The trouble with that is, you come to that point where that's enough, the next guy in either has to pay for all the sins of the past or can't do it. That's not due process, at least. That's not fair. I mean, here we talked about tonight, we bought this property because, retirement, et cetera, et cetera. So almost independent of the comprehensive plan effort, is it our responsibility to help the county keep tabs on that and talk to the providers? I think the evidence is there. For months and months and months, we hear from the fire districts, even Lake Northside, oh, okay, no comment on that application. And all of a sudden, they do the work and said, whoa, we can't afford it. We're gonna have impact fees. Again, impact fees, some people would infer that, oh, well, that's gonna take care of it. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Now we've got 3 or 4 more fire districts that are talking the same thing. And the list so far under state code for getting impact fees is limited, and the use of those fees is limited. So it doesn't address the issue totally. There's other ways, but we have some physical as well as monetary limitations on what can be done here.
I'm not sure that, and I'm not a fireman, but I'm not sure that isn't a case of them not doing an adequate job of looking into the future and understanding at what point in time does the service level that they can provide no longer cease to be sufficient. Because the trend of population growth and building in the county, there's nothing new about that, right? It's been going on for decades. And I would submit that part of their responsibility should be to be looking out into the future and not just saying this MLD is okay and that short plat is okay and this subdivision is okay, and then the next day it's, oh, we need a levy. Right? They should have been coming to the county and saying, hey guys, the way we're going, at the way the trend has been going, in 3 years' time or 5 years' time, this is when you're gonna come up against a hard spot and we should be doing something now to plan for it. That's not our job, or it's not our job to do that for Northern Lights either.
So are you suggesting that we add, because we're on agenda items and updates on the agenda here. So I'm seeing if I can steer you back this direction.
Maybe we should talk about at some point in time, and I don't know that we need to do it in the next meeting or two.
Yeah.
Is there a way to establish more of an ongoing process?
So I think it would
Where we
be,
would hopefully stimulate them to do that long range thinking. And help us understand what it means for us from a land use regulation perspective. Rather than just, saying this MOD okay, that short plot's okay, and then we wake up one day and say.
The fire districts may be different, they may be more responsive, but, we had experience in dealing with the sewer districts. We try to get information from them on capacity and, whether they're over capacity, under capacity, and room for growth. Not a single one responded.
Yeah.
And we
Oh.
had, we tried to get them to respond for what, Jake? what,
yeah,
6
this
to
was
8
all in the
months?
public services component, if I remember
Yeah,
right. And
right.
we did try, and we did hear back from some of the service providers, and we reached out. So that was gonna be my suggestion, is you guys want to add an agenda item to go back and review the public services component and see, do we need to add more data and analysis to that?
I brought that up with fire districts and with a couple of sewer districts as well. Started going to the board meetings and talking about it, so. But whatever the avenue is, I'm suggesting that it should come up again. And in general, I think that is the planning commission's role, is to instigate some of that. To bring it up, if we cause the spark that gets things going, just the fact that we've got that land use analysis tool. That's information that they may not have or may not think about. Right now, the fire districts, their biggest thing is personnel, hiring people to keep on, the training and cost, the machines that are out there to fight the fires. EMS, we all have seen what's going on with EMS, county EMS. So there's all these things that are in flux. It's not. The situation is just exacerbated by the growth, and they've all said that. Oh, yeah, growth is really hurting us. But it's not the primary cause. There's other things that are going on as well that just can't be put into a code. If the fire district can't hire 3 new people, then we can't have any more land use. Well, anyway, discussion to get things going, get them totally appraised of the information that we have and how they can see it, how they can use it. That'd be a great benefit, whether that's a commission meeting or just a meeting upstairs in the planning department. I don't know.
We can talk about it, but probably not for the next.
Put it on the, well,
Probably the next couple meetings.
some upcoming agenda to put the subject on
Yeah,
for our own.
I agree. I mean, we certainly have information that we could share that might be helpful.
I'm happy to compose an email out to all the taxing districts and other service providers that I have emails for, and just send them a link to the analysis tool and ask them if they want to have a meeting with planning staff and go over that. So, and I have had a number of conversations with different fire department employees or chiefs and showed them that tool. And we're going to keep updating it every year with new information. So
Yeah, it's there and it's great. So thank
All
you.
right. So anything else? If not, we're adjourned until,
Well, are we in session actually on Thursday? Because we're all gonna, how many are gonna be
yes,
there?
we are in session. Are we?
I've advertised it as a joint meeting between the planning commission and the board. So
That's all right.
feel free to, whoever can attend. If you get a quorum, that's fine.
I will not. It's Thursday. Here you got.
Thursday at 1:30.
Thursday at 1:30.
I believe it's upstairs. It might be down here. I
We're
don't
gonna
know.
be able to do that.
You can, yeah.
Possibly Thursday.
Okay.
I'll be there first.
Okay, so it sounds like we're
I'll
going.
be there. So
Fine, so.
we're adjourned until 1:30 on Thursday.
Pretty good.